Okay, so you sent over some really interesting material about this election situation in Gorontalo Utara. It looks like things took a pretty unexpected turn.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking at a constitutional court decision here, Putusan No More 55, and some reporting around it.
Right. And the core of it seems to be the court disqualifying a candidate after the election happened and then ordering a whole new vote. That's not something you see every day.
Not at all. It really brings up big questions about, who's actually eligible to run and the whole integrity of the process itself.
So let's unpack it. The candidate in question was Ridwan Yassin running for regent.
Correct. And the Constitutional Court ultimately disqualified him. The reason, pretty specific.
Which was?
He was still on probation from a previous conviction. There was a Supreme Court decision back in April 2024, and his probation wasn't actually due to end until April 2025.
Wait, so he registered to run while still serving probation?
Exactly. The registration happened before that April 2025 end date. So legally speaking, he was still a convicted person under probation when he signed up.
Okay, that timeline is key. Did the election officials catch this initially? What about the KPU, the Election Commission?
Well, yes, interestingly, they did. The KPU initially declared him ineligible TMS Tidak Memenuhi Syarat back in September 2024. This was after he apparently admitted his probation was ongoing.
So the KPU knew. But he still ended up on the ballot. How did that happen?
Well, this is where it gets complicated. Mr. Yassin appealed the KPU's decision. He went to Bawaslu, the elections supervisory body.
Okay, the oversight body.
Right. And Bawaslu actually ordered the KPU to include him on the ballot. So the KPU, following that order, put him on.
Wow. So you had conflicting decisions from the organizing body and the supervisory body before it even got to the court.
Precisely. It sets up this whole issue of who has the final say at what stage.
Which ultimately turned out to be the Constitutional Court, the MK. So what was their final reasoning? Why did they side against Bawaslu and disqualify him?
The MK just looked straight at the legal requirements. They determined that being on active probation meant Mr. Yassin simply didn't meet the formal eligibility criteria when he registered. Full stop.
And that led straight to disqualification.
Yes. And it didn't just affect him.
Right, because he had a running mate, Muhsin Badar. Was Badar okay?
As far as eligibility goes, yes, Mr. Badar himself seems to have been fine, but because they run as a single ticket, a regent-vice regent pair.
A whole ticket goes down if one is ineligible.
Exactly. The MK invalidated their entire candidacy. It's treated as one unit.
Okay, so the candidate pair is out. What did that mean for the actual election that already happened back in November? All those votes.
This is the really significant part. The MK declare all the votes cast in that November 27th election invalid for all candidates.
Wait, everyone's votes, not just the ones for Yassin?
Everyone's. Nearly 77,000 votes gone. The logic being that the election itself was fundamentally flawed from the start because an ineligible candidate was on the ballot.
That's huge. So what's the remedy?
A revote. The MK ordered a complete do-over to be held within 60 days.
And obviously Ridwan Yassin can't run in this revote.
Correct. He's explicitly excluded. They'll use the same voter lists as before, though.
Now, what about his political party? Can they put someone else forward?
Yes, that's another interesting layer. The parties that nominated Yassin originally get a chance to nominate a replacement candidate.
But that replacement has to be eligible, presumably checked by the KPU this time.
Absolutely. They have to meet all the requirements.
And what if those parties don't nominate a replacement in time?
Then the revote just goes ahead with the other two original candidate pairs.
Yeah.
That's Roni Imran Khan Mapali and Tariq Modangunarjana Hassan Yusuf.
You know, looking at the original results, which are now void, of course, Yassin actually got the fewest votes, around 5,000. The others got like 41,000 and 29,000.
Yeah, that's right.
So why order a whole revote instead of just, say, removing his votes and declaring a winner from the remaining candidates?
That's a good question. It seems the court prioritized the principle, the idea that having an ineligible candidate potentially influenced the entire election dynamic, maybe how people voted, who they voted for. It's about protecting the integrity of the process and, arguably, the constitutional rights of all voters, even those whose initial choice was invalidated. They deserve a say in a valid election.
Right, to ensure the final outcome truly reflects the electorate's will in a properly constituted contest.
Exactly. It sets a strong precedent about eligibility needing to be locked down from the very beginning.
So wrapping this up, the key takeaway is the Gorontalo Utara election had to be rerun. because a candidate's probation meant he wasn't legally eligible to run in the first place. It really drives home how crucial these formal requirements are.
It really does. And it leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? This whole situation forces you to consider the balance. The balance between the people's right to vote and choose versus the absolute need for a legally sound, fair election process where everyone playing is actually allowed to be on the field.
Yeah, what does it tell us about the responsibilities here? Candidates need to be upfront and aware of their status, right? And the election bodies need clear, consistent procedures.
Definitely. It's a fascinating, kind of stark example of how these legal frameworks directly shape democratic results, something to keep in mind when we watch future elections unfold.